Hello, and welcome to the Inflectra webinar on testing Microsoft Dynamics NAV with our Rapise automated testing tool. The presenters today will be Denis Marketsev from Inflectra and Sergey Mityasov from our partner Global Mediator. In today's webinar, we'll first be talking about why would you use Rapise to test Dynamics NAV in the first place. Then we'll go into a practical demonstration of testing a sales order creation. We will then show you how you can use our SpiraTeam test management and application lifecycle management solution to perform continuous round-the-clock testing of your Dynamics NAV system. Then we'll go into some advanced concepts, including how to use the test recording, how to use the Rapise visual language to create a scriptless test and structure your tests in different functions, and then lastly, how to build a test framework using tests and subtests to create a modular test framework. Following on from that, our partner Sergey will be presenting an end-to-end example of testing Dynamics NAV with data loaded in from an external web-based system, showing a mixture of cross-browser testing and Dynamics NAV testing in a single example. And then finally, we'll move on to our Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Why test Dynamics NAV? This is a good question. So, are we crazy to do some work after Microsoft, or maybe they did some lousy job and issued untested product? Of course not. Actually, Microsoft issues Dynamics NAV with about 15,000 of unit tests that you can run on default configuration. But why we still need to test our installations of Dynamics NAV? There are several reasons for that. One of them is that Microsoft releases updates to their system every month, and this may break some customizations that we did to Dynamics NAV, or maybe some add-ons or integrations that we installed in our instance, and maybe we did some configuration changes at some point, and this also requires checking. So there are several sources of potential bugs that may appear during Dynamics NAV operation. So it's clear that we need to test, but how to do this? So, as I already said, Microsoft supplies Dynamics NAV with a unit testing kit, application toolkit, where you can write unit tests using CL language, which is a Pascal dialect. And also, you already have about 15,000 unit tests already created that test default functionality. So what I can say here is that you still need to write unit tests. They're fast, they're small, and it makes sense to enhance the default test coverage that Microsoft provides. But there are some limitations that unit testing toolkit from Microsoft has. So actually, it has access to database and works at the database level. And using this toolkit, you cannot really check the UI. So what can be is that unit test may pass because it has access to all object fields. Nevertheless, they are shown on screen or not, but the real user may not be able to enter information or do something in the system. Also, if we are speaking about integration testing or end-to-end testing, which is also very important, then you cannot do this with a CL unit testing toolkit. So you can see on the screen the typical test pyramid, and unit tests can be done using default Microsoft tools. And for integration testing and for end-to-end testing, we propose to use Rapise. which is a great tool to really do this. So let's look at a real-life example where integration and end-to-end testing is required. So we have a partner who tests the following application. This is a Jira plugin that allows you to log time tracking information. So people work on some tasks for some period of time, and they need to log this information into Jira. And they do this using browser. Then Dynamics NAV fetches all this information from Jira and automatically creates sales invoices and sends them to clients. So you can test some part of sales orders using unit tests, but with CL you really cannot automate browser. So you cannot put information into Jira either using browser or by sending some REST or SOAP requests using APIs. But you can do all this stuff using Rapise. Rapise is capable of cross-browser testing, so you can open browser, you can simulate user behavior and enter required information into the system. Then Rapise can work with Dynamics NAV and also initiate synchronization with Jira database and sales order creation. So this is the introduction, and the next I'm going to show a real test case which creates a sales order in the system and posts this order and verifies the total amount of items included into the sales invoice. So right now on the screen, you can see Rapise application, which is installed here on this Windows machine. And let me first execute the test, so you will see what it does and how it does it. So I press the play button, and now Rapise starts executing the test. So it is going to launch Microsoft Dynamics NAV automatically, since it wasn't found on screen. And then it will go to sales orders list by selecting an item in the tree, and will start creating new sales order. It selects the customer, and then Rapise fills order lines information. And it will fill 3 lines here, and all data that is entered here is taken from external Excel spreadsheet. So when the playback will be finished, I will show it in more detail. So you can have one test and several spreadsheets with different data that you can use for end-to-end system validation. So while the test is executing and entering order lines here, Rapise calculates the total amount, and also in this test, it compares the total amount with what Dynamics really calculated. So here is the Rapise finished executing the test, and now you can see the test report. And the green lines indicate statements that were executed successfully. If something goes wrong, it will be highlighted in red. And here you can see a line for each action that Rapise performed during the playback. And also at the end here, you can see some verifications that expected total of the sales order was this sum, and the actual total grabbed from Dynamics was this, and these numbers are the same, so the test really passed. So let's see how Rapise test actually looks like. So it contains of several files. You can see those files on the left of the application in the tree view. The main file, basic sales order JS, is an entry point to the test, and it launches some high-level blocks of the test. So tests in Rapise are programmed in JavaScript, and here you see JavaScript code. And these building blocks are implemented in a different file, which is also included into the test. So let's go to a function that enters lines into the order. You can see here that the test attaches to a spreadsheet. This spreadsheet is also included in the test. And here you can see the columns defined and the values placed here. So you can modify the spreadsheet right inside Rapise, so you don't need to install Microsoft Office on a computer with Rapise. So you can do changes by having only Rapise on the computer. And this information will be grabbed by the test and used during playback. So let's return to our function. So it reads information from the spreadsheet and then passes to order line function. So let's see its implementation. And this function performs what you typically see in UI test automation tools. It finds an object with a specific ID on the screen and then performs some action on this control. So for example, we have a control order lines grid and we want to perform click sell operation. The first parameter is a line on which to do this, and the second parameter is the name of the column where to click. All these objects that are used here, can be found in the object tree. So here in the left pane, I selected object tree tab. And here, grouped into the windows where those objects were captured during recording, you can see all those objects that were captured in the application. Okay, so let's see how recording looks like in Rapise. So let me start a new recording session. So I press record button. Select the application. And in the right bottom corner, you can see recording activity dialog. And this dialog will show captured actions while I will be interacting with the Dynamics NAV. So I click on sales order. And you can see here that Rapise captures not just click on some element. It recognizes the tree and understands that I just clicked on a specific node in this tree. Then I click on the new button. And then go to customer dropdown, expand, and select a value. And you can see here in the recording activity dialog that Rapise captured that I clicked on airport customer in the name column. So if this value will change its position in the grid, or the name column will not be the second column in the grid anymore, and it will be third or fourth column, Rapise will still be able to find this value, and you will not need to do any updates or changes to your test. So let's go to contact field, and then I am going to the line section and going to add a line into the sales order. So I click in the grid, expand, select item. So here we also saw the same grid, and you can see that Rapise clicked on item value in the column with index 0 because the column did not have any name. So let's click on description, expand, select our value, and so on and so forth. So let's press finish here. Okay, and Rapise entered this into RVL spreadsheet, which I was going to show you further. Okay, let me go to another test without RVL. And Rapise actually should add the following lines here with the recorded steps. And then what you can do is to grab recorded steps and then create a function from the recorded steps, or move these lines into a particular part of your test. So you can click here and extract user scenario, give some meaningful name, enter order line. Okay. And now we have a special function created, and we have a call to this function in the entry point of the test. So here we have a basic test for sales order. And what if we want to execute this test several times in scheduled manner, for example, every night, to see that nothing was broken in the system? Rapise is tightly integrated with the SpiraTeam. This is a lifecycle management solution offered by our company, by Inflectra. And using SpiraTeam, which is a web-based application, you can track requirements, defects, issues, and tests inside your development project. And using SpiraTeam, you can link a Rapise test to a particular test case. Let's go to test cases list. Here I have a test case called basic sales order. And this test case is linked to Rapise test, which is also stored inside SpiraTeam. So to store a test in SpiraTeam, you need to do save to Spira in Rapise. And here you can see that the test case is linked to Rapise test. By defining test sets, you can group test cases together and execute them in scheduled manner on remote machines which have Rapise installed. So let me close Rapise and let me close Dynamics as well. And here I have a test set called sales orders, and it has basic sales order test case included. And also the type of my test set is automated, and I configured it to run on automation host NAV VM. On this machine, I have a special component running, which is called Rapise Launcher. This component is periodically checking with SpiraTeam if there are some jobs to execute, and if there are any, Rapise Launcher will get the files from SpiraTeam, will execute test cases and upload results into SpiraTeam back. So let's set the status of this test set to not started and save it here. So in a few seconds, Rapise Launcher will detect that there is a task to execute, and we will perform execution of the same test case here. So actually, this approach is used by one of our partners, and what they really do, they implement test cases, and they upload the tests into SpiraTeam, and their clients also have access to the same SpiraTeam instance, and they use it to execute those test cases nightly. And as a result, both teams on the customer side and on the developer side have access to results of test execution. And if there are any issues, they can rapidly resolve them. So right now you can see that the scheduled test is automatically executed. And the results of execution will be uploaded into SpiraTeam. And when the test execution will be finished, I will show you the results. With SpiraTeam, you can not only create test sets, but you also may have different configurations and set some execution parameters for Rapise tests. So you may influence execution of tests right from SpiraTeam without having access to Rapise and actual code of the test. So the execution has been completed. So let's minimize it. And let's go to SpiraTeam. Here is the test run step. Let's refresh. And here we have test run report for the last execution. And here, if I will scroll down, we have the same report as you saw in Rapise at the beginning. So for each statement, you have a line and you can analyze the status. So if something failed, it will be in red. And you will have an opportunity to go to incidents, tracking incidents, create a bug, and then you can link this bug to a particular part of the test report. And you will automatically have this information in the system that this bug was created after execution of this particular test case on this particular version of the application. Okay, so we have time and we may proceed to some advanced concepts of using Rapise. Let me open it back. Oh, okay, we have one test case implemented. And what if you have a team and you want to implement many tests and you want to share some common parts between tests, share objects captured during recording between tests, and share some common functions, how to do this. So let me open a more complex example here. And here in the file section to the left, you can see that I have a test which has some subtests. So you may consider this parent test as a solution and subtests as some specific projects. And what you can do is to chain execution of subtests right in your parent test. So using global do invoke test, you can execute a specific test and you can also pass some parameters to this test. So what I have here is an example of a system where there are some preliminary steps. So for example, before executing some checks in the system, I need to create a particular customer there. So I call a create customer test. Then, so I do some setup before real test execution. Then I execute basic sales order test. And then I do some cleanup after test execution and delete the customer which I created on the first step. And when you create a subtest in Rapise, you have an opportunity to select how it will share objects and code with its parent test. So I'm choosing create subtest, and I have two checkboxes, and I may use objects which were already added to the parent test, or I may have own set of objects in this test, and the same is for shared user functions. I may use those from the parent test, or I may have my own set. Also in Rapise, let me switch to basic sales order. You can work with tests not only using JavaScript actually. Rapise also has such thing as Rapise visual language. This is a spreadsheet-based approach to test creation and modification. So using RVL, you can define script logic, and it is as powerful as JavaScript. So it's a matter of taste, which one you prefer for a particular situation. Either you program in JavaScript or you can select values from cells in RVL spreadsheet. Actually, what we recommend is to use RVL if you are a consultant. So you work with the customer and you work from one side and you work with the developers from another side. And actually, you don't have a lot of time to perform programming or executing test cases, but you're really an expert and know how the system should work. So what you can do is to use RVL for rapid prototyping of a particular test case. So you may define some functions, some common parts that later will be implemented by developers, who will record objects and will add more verifications. But the high-level scenario can be really implemented by consultants on their own. Okay, so we have some time left for questions and answers. And at the end, if we will have time, we have one of our partners on the call. We will switch to their system and they will show the real life scenarios and test cases, how Rapise can be used in real life projects. So to ask questions, you can write them. You may write them in the chat window, or raise your hand, and Adam will turn on sound for you.
Thanks so much, Dennis. So if you are ready to ask a question, feel free to write it in the chat window, or if you want to unmute your line to raise your hand or try to do it yourself. We have one question already from Pedro. The question was, is there any data isolation or rollback for each test function?
So I wonder what is meant by data isolation here.
Oh, he raised his hand. I can unmute you, Pedro, if you'd like. Hold on one sec.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, hello.
Hi. Thank you. My question is to, let's say I use some data and I'm testing several things, and sometimes I might want to have isolation. So if I want to test something, let's say as a new customer values, but then I forget and I use the same name or something, and it won't be anymore a new customer if I don't have a mean to isolate.
Mm-hmm. So there are several ways to do this. Actually, if you have a test coverage which you execute on a regular basis, say maybe it makes sense for you to perform database snapshot and before running the tests and database restore after you finished execution. So Rapise has a set of global objects that you can use, and among them there is a database object which enables you to execute SQL statements, so you can connect to the database of Dynamics NAV and perform snapshot restore. Also, there is another mechanism which you can use, which is not so global. There is a global object in Rapise called global, and it has two functions, do set property and get property. What these functions do is they create a local JSON file, and this file persists between execution of the test. So what you can do is, for example, create a customer and then store the ID of this customer in the using set property, and then when you launch your test again, you may see at the value that you store at the previous execution, and then either increment it or perform some analysis based on its value. Not sure that I answered your question. So what do you think?
Thank you very much.
Okay, and Sergey's raised his hand, so hold on, let me just unmute. Hello, Sergey.
Yeah, hello. Actually, I'm from the partner that Dennis has mentioned it. So regarding data and cleaning data, there are three approaches you can use. First, it's database backup and restore, or database snapshot and restore. Snapshot faster than backup. Second approach, you can create the test company before you start a test and using this test company and then delete it. And the third approach, you can just create a special code unit to clean up the needed tables after you test it. It's just the answer about data isolation and data.
Thank you very much. That's great. If there's no other questions, then we'll move into having Sergey do the partner presentation.
Okay, so I'm Sergey Mityasov, a QA lead engineer from Global Mediator company. We are fortunately the partners of Inflectra company. And before we started to use Rapise in our processes, I've investigated and tested and tried a lot of test automation tools, including RunnerX, including Test Complete, including Microsoft's coded UI test tool. And unfortunately, all those tools are not relevant to use with NAV and to automate NAV coded UI tests. Why? Actually, it's not enough for me to use internal NAV test tool. It's because our solution is in integration between Jira and NAV. So this solution is built for companies that use Jira as a time tracking system and NAV as an ERP system to create invoices, to post the time, to post all expenses and other stuff. So I'll show you the one of workflows we use. We are going to create a new task in Jira, then post the time to this task. Then we will synchronize this information with NAV. We will post job journal line for this task, then create sales invoice. And at the next step, we will delete this task from Jira. Let's imagine that we posted the time by mistake or created this task by mistake. So then we need again synchronize information and post negative journal line and create sales credit memo for our customer. So let's start at C, and as you understand, I can't manipulate, for example, Firefox we will use now from internal NAV test tool. It's impossible. That's why we need some external tool, and the only tool I know for now relevant for this purpose, it's Rapise. So let's start and see. Execution is fully automated, so I will not touch my keyboard or mouse. So first step, we are opening Firefox, Jira, and creating a new task. Task is created. The next script will post 8 working hours on this task. Okay, now we should open the vision. We will set work date. We will set up our connector to synchronize only today's task. Receiving information from Jira. Okay, as you see, we have one new journal line. We are verifying the quantity of hours and number of resources. Posting the journal line. The next script will go to the jobs. We should find our job. It's Jira NAV. It's the test job we're using by number. We are filtering our jobs. Then we need to calculate new journal lines and approve it. And then we create the sales invoice, all in automatic mode. Here we verify total including VAT, quantity of hours, and line amount, and then we post in an invoice. The same verification at posted invoice. Okay, next script, we should delete our task from Jira. And close Firefox because we don't need it anymore. Again, synchronization. Here we again verify the quantity and resource. Now we should search for our job and then search for our new created credit memo in this grid. Again, verifying quantity, total including VAT, posting the credit memo. Yes, Rapise is working very fast, faster than user can do it. But please pay attention that now the demonstration is going from my local PC. So at the server, it's much faster. The test set is passed, everything is okay. Actually, this test set is passed on our server every night to be sure that our functionality is working well. You can see in test report all verification and steps. As well, you can see the screenshots for each step. So now you have seen a concrete real example from our everyday job. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks for watching today's video on testing Dynamics NAV with Rapise. If you'd like to learn more about automated testing of Dynamics products, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks so much.